Hey everybody, happy Friday. We made it through another week. And guess what? IT Expo, the tech super show, is back in a couple of short weeks in Fort Lauderdale. We have a couple of great guests to chat about the big day, the big week, as well as tech trends. Rich Tarani, how are you?
Hey, how are you, Evan? How's it going?
I'm great for a Friday. Bill Miller, how are you?
I'm fantastic. And it's not just Friday, it's every day.
Every day is Friday when you're living the
Every day is
dream.
Friday.
Uh, but let's do some introductions, Rich, to yourself. And for those few people who don't know about IT Expo, the Tech Super Show that's happening, give us a backstory. It's quite an intriguing story, a long storied company, TMC and IT Expo as well.
Thanks. Show's 25 years old. This is the biggest show we've ever done, the largest registration that we've ever had. Most exhibitors, most speakers. It is going to be the place to be if you are an enterprise, a medium-sized company, all the way down to small, or if you're a reseller, MSP, communications carrier, channel partner. All of those groups come to IT Expo, and the reason they do so is they are looking for products, services, techniques, networking opportunities to boost their business via the latest software, cloud, hardware, whatever it is that they need to improve their business, their productivity, and basically reduce costs and stay competitive.
Wow. That's a mic drop moment. Is there anyone who shouldn't be there in the B2B and enterprise tech space?
It's not a consumer show. So to the extent that consumer and business is merging to some degree, and it is, right? Some, like, for example, mobile phones at some point were consumer, then they merged over. The web browser was actually consumer and then merged into business. So, if it's a consumer only product, then it's probably not going to be ideal. For example, like some kind of fitness monitoring device or something. Like, that's not something we'd suggest at the show
We had
unless.
CES just a couple weeks ago for that, and that was phenomenal.
Correct, right. So that's the difference. We're really a business show for business purposes and not a consumer show. So, you know, granted, there's crossover. Like, for example, the communications carriers that will come to our show, they will, for example, sometimes they'll find a phone vendor who's at the show and they'll use that phone vendor's phones and buy, millions of them and send them out to their customers who are consumers. So, or an internet gateway, a broadband gateway, but still, that's a business. We think of that as a business purchase, right? Because the communications carrier is buying that and providing that to their consumer customers, if that makes sense.
Oh, totally, totally does. And it really is a who's who of the enterprise tech world and SME tech world there. It's really an exciting destination. Next guest here, Bill Miller. We haven't chatted in a while. Would love
Nope.
to hear what you're up to lately and what's new, Bill.
What's new? Well, I've known Rich for 25 years because I met him, I think, at probably the first IT Expo when his dad was still around and walking the floors when I was with Fujitsu. So I go back a couple of years here and been with a few companies, and I've been involved with IT Expo for a pretty good part of that time. I've been an exhibitor and a sponsor. I've been a speaker at many. I mean, I did the
Mm.
case study Dallas Cowboys back in 2000. I think it was five or six. I think it was five when I was with 3Com, when they were still a 3Com customer. And I've been, I worked with TMC to bring the Asterisk world to the open source platform with Digium to IT Expo. So I have a pretty good relationship with all of the TMC team. Fantastic people. Rich, of course. I couldn't resist putting my book up here on my virtual background because Rich is the author of the forward for me.
Mm.
So much appreciated that, and it's helped make earn me a couple of awards for this particular book, all about CEOs. Several of them are in the IT Expo world. So the names aren't called out, but people who know me can figure out the companies and the CEOs. Anyway, I'm working on my second book, which is all about CEO mistakes that
Ooh,
CEOs
good one.
make, and the top 77 mistakes that CEOs make, how to avoid them if you haven't made it yet, and how to recover if you have. And I have kind of a release form for CEOs to fill out that want to be in the book. So there's a few CEOs who are willing to put their story in the book, and I'm hoping that becomes more of a reference book. This is a book about stories about real life CEOs that I reported to. This one here, but the next one is quite a bit different. It'll be more of a reference book to help CEOs and leaders really at all levels. I've moderated this CEO Insights panel since 2021. So it was the first event back after the pandemic, and it was slow, but it was a great event. And I worked with Rich's team and had that first platform with 4 CEOs. All the CEOs really are quite familiar with IT Expo. Some I think this year they're all at the event with a booth of some sort. But these people share their stories openly and they answer the questions, and it's very great dialogue. And we've had better crowds each year, and I think this year will be even bigger because of uh, being on the Gen AI track. So this
Can
year
we explain
on
that, Bill? The fact that there's a generative AI expo, it's co-located. One of the things about IT Expo that's kept it fresh, right? This is the 41st event, and we're very fortunate and blessed to have, amazing people like the two of you guys coming down to the show, as well as many thousands of others. And we think one of the big differentiators is that we've been on the leading edge of, it's not just what's important today for people, right? We talk about today's events, but also what's next, what's coming. And this is now the second generative AI expo that's part of what we call a tech super show, which is kind of this, it's an overall umbrella, overarching umbrella of the event. And as one of a real smart PR person told me at the show years and years ago, he said, I think of this as like a mall. This event is like a mall, whereas other events are more like maybe a department store. Well, what our goal is to have enough information at this event so that people can learn and become educated on all the important things they need to know about. And one of the hot topics, obviously, is generative AI. Now, granted, AI is almost in every industry; it's affecting everything. But there is also a need to learn about AI itself, because if we start looking at these various large language models and all these other things that are coming up and out, like in terms of they're amazing amazing services that will make graphics for you, like Midjourney and all these others that you can use to make graphics. You just need a track to keep track of everything. To get to how do you become more productive? How do you become more efficient? How do you know what's the best large language model for your particular niche or your particular industry or your space? So thankfully, Bill is participating in that generative AI track, and we can't wait to hear what his what's on his panels, what we can learn from him, etc.
Yeah, that's a
Thanks,
great
Rich. Yeah.
opportunity, Bill. And tell us, what's on top of mind on many CEOs' minds. I know, Rich, you do get a lot of CEOs attending, either the vendors, their C-suite. You get small, medium-sized businesses, lots of business leaders and CEOs from the telcos. It really is a great place for the C-suite as well as us tech geeks. What's the sort of demographic of the show, Rich? Who will be
So
attending?
it's believe it, like what you just said is exactly explains it. The smaller companies are very high level, CXO level. So we'll get
Hmm.
COO, CEO, especially MSPs that are looking to come and find what they should be reselling to their customers. Typically, those are smaller organizations, so you'll get a higher level. A lot of the telecommunication service providers will be sending like directors of engineering people, procurement people who are making decisions on purchasing. In the enterprise space, it's a mix. It really is a mix, but really it comes down generally to IT people, right? The people that are
Hmm.
dealing with the IT. Sometimes it'll bubble over, or, sideways, I guess, go over to the C-suite in terms of the people that are looking to boost productivity and aren't necessarily primarily the tech people. And there are so many sessions. There's hundreds of sessions at the show that you can go into and learn. So it really it prevents, or I guess it allows you to come to a show and really look at technology from multiple angles. You can learn about how to become more productive. You can learn about what technology is the best in a particular area. You can spend time with your peers, right? There's networking events. So it's really, we look at it as 3 days of invaluable education that could literally take weeks or months to do elsewhere if you're on the internet just searching, because ultimately there are reviews on the internet, but even when I'm on, let's say, large e-commerce sites, I never know if the reviews are real. Are they paid reviews? I just don't know. But when I go to a conference, I can speak to customers, and I can speak to other customers, and I can speak to partners, and ultimately I get a sense that this, what I'm learning about is real, and I can ask about the real challenges of implementation and what are the benefits. And I get a sense in person that this is a legitimate response, whereas online it's a little bit more difficult to do that, and you just wouldn't have access to these people online even if you were trying to replicate it. You really have to go to a live event to maximize your time. You're out of the office, you're focused, and it's just a jam-packed 3 days of excitement, education, and choosing products for the rest of the year, right? This is the budget cycle for most companies. They come during the budget cycle to figure out what do they need to buy to make their 2024 the best year ever.
Yeah, such a great point. And, Bill, tell us on the, CEO Insights blog, what are some of the themes and undercurrents that you're seeing? Is it the worst time to be a CEO, or the most exciting time to be a CEO,
man.
or both?
So this house works with a lot of startup founder CEOs, and that's where I kind of bring my expertise in. Is I don't, even though I've worked at the multi-billion-dollar corporations at the senior level, I would much prefer to work with startups and small company CEOs, because I functioned as a COO before in the hosted VoIP space, so I have a pretty good idea about every element of a company. And I can help a CEO. I can sit in a meeting for meetings for 3 days with every function in a small company, and pretty much come away with knowing where the bumps and bruises are, people that need to be moved around a little bit. People are and this happens for the CEO. It's really hard because once you get to be the top dog, everything is on your plate. And so you need to have the best team that you can trust under you. And this is the biggest problem for startup founders and small company founders, is they don't want to let go. They don't like to let go. It's okay to be involved in the big decisions, every big decision, and the strategy is yours and the direction is yours and the highest level messaging is yours, but you've got to rally the troops around you. And a lot of the new people that, especially in the world since the pandemic, where there's so many people get laid off, they start companies. And if most of them don't come from a sales background, they come from a technical background, they're not very good as overall business CEOs. They don't understand how to sell, and they have to be the sales guy, right? Founder-led sales and founder-led marketing are very difficult for a lot of these founders. So I can help bring these people through that phase. And today I'm mostly an advisor, although for one particular client I do a lot of the work. I do contracts for them, and process plans and various other kinds of things, and help with their particular leadership team. And I do it really. I do it out of love more than anything. I'm semi-retired these days after 5 decades in the business myself. So I love technology. I love what I do. I love IT Expo. It's the only actual article I wrote on my LinkedIn profile is about the general trade shows versus the vendor trade shows, and why IT Expo. And I wrote this several years ago. Why IT Expo was my favorite, actually, because Rich and the team have reinvented themselves year in and year out. Like last year, 3 weeks in advance, the Gen AI track was born, And yeah, it was new and it was just born. And I was on the MSP track last year. But what's interesting is that it's so hot. Everybody is talking about generative AI, but people are scared of it. Some people are scared of it. Some people are worried about it because of IP and copyright infringements.
Mm.
And some people love it because they figured out how to write prompts, how to make it work for you, uh, in the process of making AI uh, your assistant, and really do 75% of the daily mundane tasks. So people are starting to learn how to do that. So the panel this year is the good, the bad, and the ugly of using generative AI for business. And I think it's a fantastic topic. Like we talked about this last fall, Rich, and it's actually better now than it of a topic now than it was then, because so much stuff happens every single day. There's new
Mm.
tools every day. There's new everything every day. And it's not just marketing or sales, it's coding and engineering development process and QA process. I I had I had lunch with the old QA team from Fiber Mountain, I don't know, a few months ago, and ChatGPT is on my phone. It's I use it all the time, but the plus version. And so I said, "Have you ever used ChatGPT?" The guy who runs at a new company now, the guy who runs QA says, "No." I said, "How long does it take you to write a test plan?" And he tells me, weeks really. So I said, okay, give me answer these three questions. So I wrote a prompt to answer the three questions that he gave me. And he sat there and watched this thing come through my phone in about 35 seconds. And he had a whole draft test plan. I said,
That's
Wow.
you don't have to use this. This just give you an idea how powerful this is.
So it's
Now,
interesting that you're saying that, Bill, because some of the notes that we were batting around before this call, one of the interesting topics that happened in the last couple of days is that our fourth quarter gross domestic product was released, and it's basically it's a an addition of all the products and services produced by the United States, and we have been told by many people that there is going to be a recession and that the economy is going to get worse, and that typically means that the amount of products and services produced, GDP, decreases. And in this case, it increased by 3.3, which was higher than expected,
Mhm.
3.3%. And the Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen, said that the reason for that is because there was an increase in productivity. Now, we haven't seen a massive increase in productivity in quite some time.
Mhm.
Can anybody guess why there might have been a
Hmm.
productivity boost in the last quarter? Okay. Should I play the theme to Jeopardy here?
well, it's
Ding,
Yeah,
because
I
90,
think we have a few
yeah,
guesses. Yeah.
ding.
90%, what I've seen from Gartner is that over 90% of CEO, well, not CEOs, but marketing and sales executives have started to implement AI in their business process. Now, some of them are just taking straight AI content, and that's a mistake. You have to learn how to, because you're an expert, it's a combination of your expertise plus knowing how to ask the right questions. And then AI can come and automate and edit this stuff, can do copy editing, can do all kinds of neat things. And it takes all the mundane freaking tasks that it used to be. You could ask it to write an outline for something. You could go through let's say there's a 280 page report out of the government. You can feed that in to upload that PDF document into one of the Gen AI tools, and it'll give you a complete summary of it for you. And it'll do it in a number of words that you ask it. You can
Bill,
do
is
it
it
in.
fair to say that there's a difference also between what we're talking about here, which is just the general individual use of AI, and the corporate implementation or the business implementation, right? So it's more than right.
Yeah.
Anybody could just go into ChatGPT and do some of these things, but the
Mhm.
question becomes, how are you going to integrate this into your business in a way that improves many of the different areas? Because ultimately, all competition or all businesses is competitive, and we're all dealing with profit numbers and pricing models, and ultimately there's a race to zero in a lot of different businesses because things
Mhm.
get commoditized. So it's basically the companies that are able to figure out how to be the most productive and are able to price properly. Now, whether they keep those margins as profit and maybe spend more money on marketing, or however they want to run that part of the business.
Mhm.
That's up to them. But if you are able to maximize productivity and minimize cost better than the next guy, you are going to be in a great position. And the earlier you put those policies in place in your organization and the procedures and choose the tools, the better position you're going to be in, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, and
I
I
also
think
think,
I think our
yeah.
companies, just to follow on that point, Rich. I mean, GoDaddy, we saw Google replacing customer-facing customer service positions with AI. So, to be competitive, it's going to be, table stakes, I think, to implement these kind of solutions, is it not?
Yeah, and I think it's not there yet in some places, right? So, for example, customer facing, it can be good. It can be good for certain things, right? But ultimately, you may want to kick it back to a human at some point. But it's getting better and better and better. And the companies
Mhm.
that are starting to experiment with it now and figure out how to replace, for example, customer facing with AI, the sooner they do that, the better. And whether they do it in conjunction with humans, however they want to do it, is up to them. And it may not work for every company, but the majority of customer service is going to be, or customer facing roles are eventually going to be AI driven. And I know that there's going to be pushback for some time from some people, but we saw the same kind of pushback with automated phone systems, automatic call distributors that were invented, let's
Mhm.
say 20, 30 years ago, where you called the company and it said, press one for this, press two for that. There used to be humans, and there was pushback for a number of years. But ultimately, to be competitive, companies had to adopt this automation within their telephone systems. And now, to be competitive, companies are going to have to adopt this automation anytime that they are communicating with end customers. It just, unfortunately or fortunately, however you look at this is what's going to happen. You don't have any choice. Yes, you can be maybe you're the single exception because you have a very, very high margin product, right? Like Rolls Royce may not need to do this, right? Bentley may not need to do this. Understood, right? Tiffany may not need to do this. But for most people, they're in a competitive market that's getting ever more commoditized. It becomes very difficult to compete if you've got 30 people on the phone and your competitor has one or two people on the phone for escalation.
Mhm.
And the majority of those responses are coming from machines. You're not going to effectively compete, which means you're not going to be able to price match if you need to do that to keep customers. And eventually you lose market share. And that's just a bad recipe for a long term future for any organization.
Yeah, a lot of companies that have developed these IVR systems over the years, and when you call customer service, you get sent around and around and around and never get a human, or you never get an answer. The AI systems that they're putting now into contact centers, uh, if you think about it, they have the knowledge base built in. So a level one call can actually answer probably 70 or 80% of the questions. And you don't go into this if they've implemented AI and obviously customize it for their particular company and service, they can get the whole knowledge base built into this AI tool. And unless it's a very unique, kind of a problem that, as long as you give them an out to escalate to to a live person, most of those questions are going to be answered, which now increases customer satisfaction, not decreases it in the past. And that's where I see a lot of things changing. And I see companies and CEOs that I talk to that are doing that and doing various kind of applications to enhance their service. On the panel, the thing that people coming to my panel the last 3 years have told me is, I give away some free signed books at the, 10 books at the end of my panel. If people stick around for a few minutes and I'll meet me and talk to me and give me feedback, one of the things that they tell me is they've never been to a session like this before to hear the actual insights of the CEO based on my questions. And when you look at the three people that are CEOs of very successful companies, and many of them are multiple CEOs, they're not new founder CEOs, they're
Hmm.
longtime veterans, Dave George, Bill McLean, and Dan Rosenrausch. And these guys will share insights, what they're thinking, what they're doing in their companies. And Bill McLean has become one of the principles of upon AI, which are now building UCAS applications around AI. for their businesses that are that primarily sell to this customer base that's going to be at IT Expo. So he has real customer stories, I'm sure, that are within the last 6 to 9 months, as well as running his companies. He's got a couple of companies, but he's also now doing this upon AI stuff, which is all AI applications. And they're learning the true problems that customers have, and they're trying to solve them as call management type of things. So these people, these CEOs, and it's blown me away every year. They share their true deep insights. Unfortunately, it's only 45 minutes. I wish it was an hour and 45 minutes because there's enough questions and people are just interested in the audience. And when I
And
take a poll, it's a mix.
Bill,
There's CEOs.
I just want to make sure that I give a plug, a proper plug. There are people I've spoken with in private equity that have your book as required reading. Give me the title again. Give us the title.
It's the Ricky CEO. You can't make this stuff up.
Yeah, so your book is actually required reading in private equity firms. So just an FYI, it's pretty impressive. So because you were a tech guy, a marketing guy, and then you went into writing books, and you reached out to me. You said, "Hey, can you write the forward?" And I was thinking to myself, "What does Bill know about writing books? He's never written a book before." But you know what? I like this guy. He's smart. He knows his stuff. All right, I'll write the forward. I wrote the forward, and lo and behold, I have people reaching out to me now saying, "Oh my God, you wrote the forward in Bill's book. It's required reading." So that's really exciting. Congratulations.
Well, and Rich, you
Thanks.
can write the forward for my next book, which will be written by ChatGPT, but you can write the forward in ChatGPT. So it'll be
Can you just
a
have
real,
ChatGPT write my forward for me, or do I do that?
I don't know, I'm very confused already, but there's so much goodness happening at IT Expo, including uh, a number of Friday fun here, never a dull moment, including co-located events like the Future of Work Expo and more. Talk about that, Rich, and also what are the themes at the Future of Work Expo, because that's a really hot topic now with hybrid work and things like I saw an article here, Bank of America threatening workers who don't return to office with disciplinary actions, and all kinds of drama happening out there in the world of work.
Yeah, it's interesting. There are numerous co-located events at this show, and just to give you a quick overview of the topics that are at the show, there's co-located events on IoT, future of work, obviously generative AI. We've talked about Asterisk, which is there's an Astricon show, which is an open source communications platform. There's an expo on 5G, an enterprise metaverse expo, an industrial IoT event, a smart city event, and one on customer experience. But to specifically answer your question regarding the future of work, you mentioned Bank of America is upset that people have not come back to the office and they're going to threaten disciplinary action. And I also did a post on LinkedIn recently about this this device you can plug into your laptop, and it simulates movement of your mouse. And the reason they do that is because a lot of employers are tracking mouse movement as a way to ensure their employees are actually working. And in my post, I said, this is just really crazy in a post-COVID world that management hasn't come up with better solutions than to track mouse movement to make sure that people are working, right? We now have collaborative tools. We have all sorts of ways of ensuring that people are productive and collaborating and efficient, regardless of where they are. And it's obvious that the people that are just tracking mouse movement and tallying that as a way to ensure that they, whether they fire you or keep you or whatever they do with that information, that they're obviously not maximizing the productivity of their workforce. So Future of Work Expo is all about the technology and the systems and procedures and processes that companies need to implement today to deal with the hybrid workforce, which, for better or for worse, it's a hybrid workforce. People don't want to work 100% in the office. And if you force them, you will not have access to the world's best people. Why? Because other companies will allow flexible work, and subsequently the best workers will go to the companies that allow the flexible work. So by definition, if you're 100% in office, you are not getting the best workforce. I'm not trying to be offensive to people who are working in an office. I'm just saying that, people have now gotten used to this flexibility, and the really talented people will find work. So that's one of the challenges that enterprises have to deal with. And so that means that since the world has changed so much and we can't rely 100% on physical walls to kind of house our work, we now need to implement software, policies, and procedures that replace what was once the four walls of the enterprise. And companies still have it, some have. Many companies have not done that, but there are so many tools, so many procedures, so many processes that you can implement that are going to allow you to be even more productive than you would be in the office. And someone may be watching this and say, "Oh, I have to spend money on that. Oh my God, I don't want to spend money on that." Well, if you're an enterprise, think about spending a small amount of money on the hardware and software as opposed to the massive amount of money that you were spending on real estate and related expenses. You're going to reduce your real estate expenses, take some of that money, invest it into productivity tools, keep your team, number one, happy, number two, motivated, number three, communicating and collaborating efficiently and effectively, right? So now what are you talking about? Lower real estate costs, higher productivity from your team, a happier team, and now you've got coworkers that are going to talk to their friends and their other high value colleagues and say, "Yeah, this is a great company. You want to work for them too." You're going to attract even better talent, right? So for those companies who understand this, they are going to do great. For the companies that are forcing you into an office, and I don't mean to, I don't want to say anything derogatory about the specific, example, but it just happens that Bank of America was in the news this week. It's going to be really tough to attract the best of the best talent out there. So that's just the reality that we're all going to have to deal with, right? You either adopt these tools, become proficient in using them, invest in them, or you're not going to have access to the best talent and you're going to become less competitive over a period of years.
Wow, such a great point. And we want to wrap this up, but any final thoughts, Bill, on planning to be in Fort Lauderdale? What's on your mind in advance of the event, and maybe a call to action? Can folks reach out to you and connect to meet up, and where can they do that?
Sure. So if anyone does want to meet me, they can obviously come to my panel and talk to me before or after, which is Wednesday morning. It is February 14th at 9 a.m. Nice, bright and early. They're 45 minutes, and then there's plenty of time afterwards. I will be going, I think, to the Cloud Voice Alliance suite, where I think they have a room from 10 to 12 or something like that. And since I'm an advisor there and I do their CEO success story webinars, I will be, which is also it's a Q&A kind of like this, right? But just two of us. And that'll be from 10 to 12. If you want to send me a message specifically, you can go to my LinkedIn or my website really has everything, which is beelinebill.com, spelled Beeline. It's my brand online. And I also have a link tree with all of my links to the books and everything else. So again, it's Beeline Bill. So just do a search for Beeline Bill and you'll find everything. You can find Rich Durrani associated with my book. If you just do a search on the book, like Barnes and Noble, who sells just the hardcover, they actually list Rich Durrani as an author. The way they do it, because he's listed on the cover of the book. It's really interesting. He is the author of that section, which my editor, by the way, thought was a great piece of writing. I think I told you that, Rich.
Oh, thank you so much.
She didn't make one change to your forward. She felt it was just well done. Anyway, so I will be there. Again, beelinebill.com. There's a contact form. You can reach out to me there. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn, connect, and just make a comment about this session and just mention IT Expo or something, and we can set something up. And then my partner, Connie, is going to be there with me, and she is doing fractional marketing services. So she'll be at my session and she'll be at the event as well. And she works with a lot of these startup founders and small company founders in marketing. So we'll be there, and we're happy to talk to people. We'll be there. I'll be flying in Monday night and leave Thursday. So
See you in Fort Lauderdale. Very exciting.
I'll be
yeah,
flying in a few days before and leaving a week later. So, this is a great
woo,
tax write off for me, Rich. Thank you for that opportunity. And it's
it
not
is
too
that.
late, right, Rich? I mean, it is not too late to attend, but also to sponsor, to participate in different panels. What
Evan,
else?
we've got hundreds of people at a time that are signing up to come to the show, and we've got somewhere in the order of 5 new people saying they have to be in the show on a daily basis still right now. Airfares are relatively low, hotel prices are relatively low, and I say like compared to like a Vegas, you can get to
Mm,
Lauderdale or Miami. You use either airport really inexpensively, and we're expecting just an amazing turnout. And like you said, Evan, I mean, what I like about the Fort Lauderdale event is that it's, on the one hand, Florida is a relaxed environment. It's not crazy like some of the other trade show cities, but simultaneously, you're going to be able to network with some of the best, brightest people out there, your colleagues in the world of whatever world you're in, whether you're, like I said, a communication service provider, an enterprise, or reseller, which is channel or MSP. You're going to find your colleagues at the show, and you're also going to find some of the best companies at the show represented. From IBM and Cisco and Avaya, who've got great keynotes, and Genesis, and just a ton of amazing exhibitors. I can't mention them all, there's hundreds, but please take a look at the exhibitor list and the speaker list, and you will not be disappointed. So we're really excited about our 25th year show, and thank you all for making it possible. Those of you that have watched to the end, you're probably diehards or fans of the event, and we really appreciate you. And we're looking forward to hosting you in a few weeks in Fort Lauderdale.
fantastic. Can't wait to see you guys. Can't wait to see many of you watching, rewatching out there, and really look forward to it. And have a great weekend, guys.
Same here.
Yeah,
Thanks very much.
thank you.
Thanks, guys. Take care.